Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer.
Fertility expert Dr. Amy Abazadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Hi, you guys. Thank you for joining me on tonight's Egg Whisperer show. My name is Dr. Amy, and I'm a fertility expert in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've done so many cycles in women over 40. I'm hoping that tonight's topic will help you. The best IVF tips for women over 40, here we go. Tip number 1. Know your levels. Track and trend them over time. And I'm not just talking about your FSH, estradiol, and AMH levels. I'm also talking about your follicle counts. It is so important for you to know what's going on with your body. Knowledge is power. And truly, when it comes to your fertility, it rings true for that as well. Because if you don't know what your levels are doing, you're not going to know if your levels are going up. Let's say your FSH is at 12, and then the next cycle it's 20, and the next cycle it goes back to 11. Well, I can tell you that in my experience, a patient's IVF outcomes could potentially be better if you're moving forward in a cycle when the FSH level is lower. But if, let's say, your FSH level is 20 and you never check it again, well, you might have this really negative view of your fertility and think that you can't accomplish your goal with your eggs at the age that you're at. So that's why it's so important to see what your levels are doing, understand them, see what they mean for you before you make big picture decisions about what to do, when to do it, and how many cycles to do as well. Getting your fertility levels checked and talking about family and growing your family does not mean you have a fertility problem. It's simply about understanding. And when you're 40, all of a sudden you feel like time is of the essence, so I don't want you to waste time. I want you to get the information, understand what it means about you, see a fertility doctor like me, hi, super annoying, really positive lady who thinks that if you have an egg, there's a chance for pregnancy and will never say no to anyone who wants a chance. Look, if a guy can be 75 and get a 25-year-old woman knocked up, who am I to tell a 42-year-old that she's too old? That's simply not fair. I'm here to guide you, tell you what the real deal is, tell it what your chances are, guide you through an IVF cycle, and hopefully it will work. And if not, we're going to talk about what we learned and what we're going to do next. So often, women over 40 don't realize that they need help until after they've miscarried. I see it all the time. Well-intentioned OBGYNs tell their patients, you just had a miscarriage, you should try for another year. Your miscarriage means that next time you're going to get pregnant easier and faster. I'm telling you people, that's just not how it works. So if you're struggling, if you've had your levels checked, go see a fertility doctor. If you've had a miscarriage, go see a fertility doctor. See what they can do to help you. Even if it doesn't mean that you want to do IVF, but especially if you want to do IVF, this is the time to preserve your fertility. And yes, I'm calling it fertility. I'm not calling it infertility because I see you as a fertile person. I see you as someone who can achieve a healthy pregnancy with your eggs. And if you believe it, I hope that you can also achieve it one way or another. Everyone, of course, everyone wants things to happen naturally. No one wants to see me as their doctor, but when you're over 40 and it's time to get serious, I want you to know the things that I'm going to talk to you about in tonight's show. So the next thing is to know your IVF pyramid. Your pyramid, not someone else's pyramid. I hear patients tell me all the time about what their friends' eggs did and how many eggs they got, how many were mature, how many were fertilized. But the thing is, those are the things you want to find out before your cycle. What does your cycle pyramid potentially look like for you before you cycle? Because if you went into a cycle thinking that 3 eggs to start with meant 10 embryos out, and believe me, there are patients who think that that's something that can actually happen, well, that's not fair to you because you're going to be so disappointed. But if you go in saying, look, I started with 3 eggs and I'd be so lucky to get 1 healthy embryo and it might take 3 or 4 cycles, that's a totally different scenario and something that if you didn't know going in could happen, you'll get pretty darn angry. And going through IVF cycles that don't work, of course, cause frustration and anger. But if you let go of the anger and those types of emotions and just consider it as work that you're doing to grow your family, then maybe no matter what happens at the end, you're going to be more intact emotionally as a human being and you can move on with your life for whatever option is there for you. And hopefully it's no other option but your own eggs if that's what you wanted. But I hope that everyone is successful in the way that they always want. So give yourself time to try. Rarely I have patients that are like, oh my God, Dr. Amy, I'm over 40 and I really just want to pick the 95% chance and just use an egg donor and skip trying with my own eggs. There are, however, patients that say that, and that's okay too. You actually don't have to give yourself time to try, because chances are truly lower over the age of 40. You have a 3% chance of having, or not 3% chance, what the heck am I talking about? I'm Positive Amy. A woman at 40 has 3% of her eggs left, okay? That's the reality of it. And each cycle, you know, your chances are 5% or less depending on your age, and obviously by that time you're 45, your chances are 1% per cycle. But if you want time to try, give yourself that time to try. And then realize there's no emergency here if you're not successful. Give yourself time to heal. That also means taking breaks and maybe trying again and with a different approach. Be open. You know, obviously I can't force people to be open to other options, but really think about other options. Watch movies, read books, talk to therapists, talk to friends, read articles. There's so many other ways of being a parent than with your own DNA, if your own DNA, if your eggs run out. And then find the right path for you. You know that song, it's my party and I'll cry if I want to? Well, I should change it to it's my life and I'll do what I want to. It's your life. You get one chance to live it the way you want to. Don't do it for other people. Do it for you. So this is the thing that sometimes happens. I see it really, really often, that your ovaries are ready for other options. It's inevitable. It happens to all of us, but you're not. And patients come to me almost like bargain. Well, what can you do for me? What other supplements can I take? How can you help me grow more eggs? What can I do different? What can I eat? Is there another acupuncturist that I should see? And it's like, no, your ovaries are just saying they're ready for other options. And if you're not ready to hear it or listen to it, it's okay. But there's going to come a point where you're going to listen to what your ovaries are saying. But just give yourself time to heal. And like I said, talk to a therapist, talk to people, friends who've gone through the same thing, because there's so many people out there just like you, and the numbers are growing. So if we can all lift each other up and talk about how hard it is to get pregnant over 40, especially celebrities, if you're watching out there, if you're a celebrity watching out there, please don't tell fertility lies and make people think that your natural pregnancy at 47 was as natural as you're making it seem. So I just want to say that. Okay, so now I want you to listen to something that I'm going to say to you right now, because it's probably something that you've been thinking, but you might not have said out loud. And then we're going to change the tone. Okay, here we go. It's okay to say, I am really mad I waited too long to have a baby. I thought I had to have the house and the job and the man. We'll throw in the education. And now I realize all I needed was the eggs. I'm really, really mad at myself for not freezing my eggs. I'm really, really, really mad at my husband for making me wait until I was 40 to start trying. I kind of hate him right now. Right? I think a lot of women over 40 have found themselves saying this. And it's okay to say, it's okay to say, I'm mad at myself for waiting too long to try. But what I want you to do now is just let that go. Just take a deep breath in, cleansing breath, and let that go completely and replace it with, I waited until the right time for me to have a baby. I made a conscious decision. It was really important for me to make sure that I had everything in place. And now that I do, I am ready for all the ways that I meant to be a parent. Can you say that? I waited until the right time. It is so important for you to hear that and let go of the anger, let go of the shame, and don't let other people do it to you either. And just say, whenever you get a snarky comment, this was the right time. Thank you very much. You can end it with a thank you very much. And now on the topic of like being mad at your husband though, we can then throw his weenie in the ice and get his sperm enrolled in a sperm boot camp immediately, people, because this is the thing. When you're over 40, all of a sudden, everything gets blamed on us. Every bad IVF cycle, every bad egg quality, every embryo that doesn't result in a blastocyst, every abnormal chromosome. It's like, it's your eggs, it's your eggs, it's your eggs. But I can tell you that sperm matters so much too. So we get sperm in my office into a boot camp. I'll tell you where it is later. It's a 2.5-month retreat where he soaks his balls in ice and drinks O'Doul's, which is non-alcoholic beer, and smokes plastic cigars. It is a lot of fun, and I can tell you that they want to stay for longer than 2.5 months. But all kidding aside, you want to do those sperm deep dives. You want to look at sperm DNA fragmentation if your doctor thinks that's appropriate for you. Look at the medications he's on, look at his body size, get him on supplements, and make sure that you're doing all the same legwork for the sperm quality that you've been doing for egg quality, because you get one egg and 1 chance every time you're ready to make an embryo and you do an egg retrieval with whatever eggs you get. And there's so many sperm cells out there, and there are things actionable that men can do to improve their sperm counts, not so much for eggs. So let's talk about other things, okay? So now the nuts and bolts of the IVF cycle. You've heard me talking about the egg whisperer diet, but if you haven't, here's what it is. Diagnosis, IVF cycle, endometrial testing, and then transfer. And part of the diagnosis is getting your tushy checked, where you make sure you've looked at the tubes, the uterus, the sperm health like we talked about, hormone levels including the preconception panel, and looking at things like cholesterol, hemoglobin A1C, vitamin D, and then your genetic profile. I ask my patients to consider PGT, which stands for pre-implantation genetic testing. Remember, that's the mercury crystal ball that's not perfect, but the best thing that science has to offer us to tell us if an embryo has normal chromosomes or not, and obviously consider implantation testing, just like I said. I also ask all my patients, especially over 45, to consider working with a surrogate. It doesn't mean you need to, but it is, if I were to have 1 embryo, for example, that I had a patient work, for 6 cycles to achieve, and believe me, there are patients who do 3 cycles, 4 cycles, 5 cycles, you want to at least talk about, what if we considered a surrogate? Is that something that we should do in your case? And if the answer is no, then it's no, but at least you talked about it. So if you transferred and it still didn't work, you don't wish that someone had brought that up with you. So that's something that I do with my patients, and I want you to kind of talk through that too. And then we have the fertility team, if you guys remember, and the therapist talking about eating, exercise, acupuncture, as well as meditation. Acupuncturists, they're just like annoyingly positive like me. I mean, like they say things like, oh, you're 45? Yeah, I'll help you get pregnant. There's a 75% chance I can help you. And I'm like, that's not true. But you know what? That kind of mindset is sometimes what people need to feel really positive and fertile, and I think that's really important. But at the same time, I do obviously, tell my patients what the facts are, but I think acupuncture can help with a lot of the emotional stuff, the side effects from the medications, and how you feel on this wild ride that IVF puts you through. So that's something to think about. And then there's the supplements too. Certainly there's like a whole bunch of bottles on the slide right here, and not every single one is meant for every single patient, but there's certain things that you might benefit from, especially CoQ10. So I'll include the list of all these supplements in the blog article that I'm going to write that's going to go with the show that I'll post in the next couple of days. So be sure to look out for it if you're interested in the things that I recommend to my patients. I also do a lot of, or offer and talk to patients about HGH. That's a drug of abuse of bodybuilders like Lance Armstrong and Barry Bonds, if you haven't heard about that controversy. But it actually can help with DNA repair and healing in the body. And one of the things that we want to improve the DNA of is the egg. So that's why I think sometimes adding HGH to cycles, or even before, and taking it for maybe even 6 weeks before an IVF cycle can help in certain cases. So something to talk to your doctor about. So I know it sounds weird, preserve your fertility and consider embryo. Wait. I've been thinking this whole time that I'm 40 and that means I'm not fertile. And why is Dr. Amy saying preserve your fertility? Well, it's because I have patients who've had 1 baby at 40. And then they've come back 2 years later and then they get like pissed. Like, why didn't someone tell me? Like, why didn't someone tell me to freeze eggs when I still had them? Why didn't someone tell me to do more IVF and freeze more embryos when I still had more embryos? So at the time of your transfer, before you put that embryo in, whether it's a fresh or frozen transfer, looking at your embryo quality, looking at the quality if you have more than one, and asking yourself statistically, what is the chance that embryo is going to work for me? Those are the things to do before you put an embryo in. Do the work, talk to your doctor, find out if you should be doing more preservation before you transfer so you have more options in the future. That's really important. And these are the things that can happen. Cysts happen. As your FSH levels are fluctuating, what you're going to do is you might see a cyst at the beginning of your cycle. And then sometimes people want to put you on birth control pills. And I can tell you they do suck. I know they suck. And it sounds weird that people want to put you on birth control pills. But there are actually really good reasons to be on a birth control pill. And one of them is just to keep your cycle at cycle day 1, or to maybe help shrink a cyst so you can move forward with the cycle, or to plan your cycle around, let's say, a business trip. Sometimes your doctor needs you to be on them for their own schedules. I run my cycle 7 days a week, so that's not going to happen with me. If your ovaries are working, so am I. You've heard me say that before, but that's certainly how I do things. But there are ways that birth control pills certainly can help. And then if you're coming back, so let's say you had a baby at 39, now you're coming back at 41 and you have 1 embryo left, consider implantation testing again. Don't just assume that the testing that you did was good 3 or 4 years ago. So consider going through all the testing one more time before you transfer again, okay? And this is the thing. If let's say you're 45 years old or 46 years old and you just had a baby, or you're planning on having a baby, believe me, the one thing you want to do is try and live forever. You want to live as long as you possibly can, as healthy as you can be, so that you can literally see your grandkids if you possibly can. Okay, I know I just said possibly can like 10 times, but that's how serious it is to me. So one of the ways that I do that for my patients is I offer them cancer screening. I think that's really important because breast cancer is really common. And the same percentage of women who have breast cancer is the same percentage of women who need IVF or fertility help. And sometimes when you go through IVF, you get breast cancer. Not because of the IVF, but just because of the age that you're at, because that's how common it is. So if you're at higher risk, I want you to do all the screenings. I want you to do the mammograms, the pap smears, and certainly if there's genetic screening you can do that your doctor talks to you about, please do it. I do cancer genetic screening for my patients, and that's really important to me. And just talk about things like colonoscopy and mammograms and checking cholesterol and all the things I talked about to make sure that your pregnancy is healthy as possible, so you also come out of your pregnancy as healthy as possible and live as long as you possibly can. So I just want to close with one last thing, and that is that one of the hardest parts of my job is helping women close to menopause grow their families. Certainly there are other things that really suck, but this one really sucks, is helping people with IVF cycles that don't work until they are successful. And when you do that, helping people with IVF that's like a rhyme or a riddle. I should say that 10 times. Helping people with IVF cycles that are not successful until they work in women who are over 40 sometimes involves using an egg donor. And that's okay. So that's something that women over 40 who are doing IVF should hear that. And that's coming from me. That's coming from me who I know I don't have a special sauce. I mean, I'd like to think sometimes I do. I have hocus pocus supplements I recommend to people. They don't work for everybody. But knowing that sometimes your success might involve an egg donor is something important to hear at the very beginning. And the other thing is that for me, it's really important to make my patients, to make you feel healthy, fertile, young, and normal as you're going through this, because there's so many other things that make you feel not normal and make you feel that there's something wrong with you and get you angry about decisions you've made younger and earlier in your life. So I want you to throw that out as you're going through your cycles and try and be as annoyingly positive as me. And if you need that boost of energy, come back and watch this show next Wednesday, because I promise I'll be here with a huge smile, the same obnoxious pink lipstick, giving you guys the same positive energy and attitude as ever. So thank you guys for watching tonight's show. I look forward to seeing you guys next week and hearing from you as well. If you have any questions, tips for new shows, things you want to talk about, I hope you'll tune in, sign up for my newsletter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Have a great night. Hi, you guys. Thank you for joining me on tonight's Egg Whisperer show. My name is Dr. Amy, and I'm a fertility expert in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I've done so many cycles in women over 40, I'm hoping that tonight's topic will help you. The best IVF tips for women over 40, here we go. Tip number 1, know your levels, track and trend them over time. And I'm not just talking about your FSH, estradiol, and AMH levels, I'm also talking about your follicle counts. It is so important for you to know what's going on with your body. Knowledge is power, and truly when it comes to your fertility, it rings true for that as well.